Hi, I hope everyone had a great week and enjoyed their nonfiction readings. The books I chose this week is The 57 Bus by Doshka Slater and Vincent and Theo, the Van Gogh brothers. So I did a short summary of each just so everyone can get an idea of what they're about. So this one is, the book tells the story of these two brothers' lives intertwined. The book was written by taking information from the 658 letters from Vincent to Theo and 40 letters from Theo to Vincent. They will be more than brothers, more than friends. They will be companions in the search for the meaning in life, meaning in art, and they will, when needed, carry each other's parcels. She reveals their unfailing devotion to this pledge by drawing on the hundreds of letters they exchanged in their tragically short lifetimes, quoting extensively and adeptly, integrating them into the narrative. And the author, I think, does a really good job on making this book appealing to young adults because it's not like super exciting where you don't want to put the book down, but it's appealing where you can open it and enjoy it. And it's not written in the form of letters. She just takes the letters and takes the information from the letters and puts it into a book. And the other book I read was The 57 Bus. One teenager in a skirt. One teenager with a lighter. One moment that changed both of their lives forever. If it weren't for the 57 Bus, Sasha and Richard never would have met. Both were high school students from Oakland, California, one of the most diverse cities in the country, but they inhabited different worlds. Sasha, a white teen, lived in the middle-class foothills and attended a small private school. Richard, a black teen, lived in a crime-plagued flatlands and attended a large public school. Each day their paths overlapped for a mere 8 minutes, but one afternoon on the bus ride home from school, a single reckless act left Sasha severely burned, and Richard charged with 2 hate crimes and facing life imprisonment. The case garnered international attention, thrusting both teenagers in the spotlight. So what kind of happened was, every single day they're on the bus together for 8 minutes. They don't really know each other. Sasha, I'll get onto this later, does not see themselves as male or female and calls them an agender and likes to, instead of saying her or he or him or she, they call her they. So throughout the story you're reading and you're not saying he, him, or anything, you're saying they. And that was kind of interesting and hard to read like that because I was like, wait, who are we talking about? Who's they? But we were talking about Sasha the whole time. But I'll go on to more on that in a second. So the themes found in the text: Vincent and Theo, brother and family relationships. It's a lot about the two brothers and what they go through and how they help each other get through hard times and becoming of age. How one can be a role model for their siblings. How people can disappoint their parents, bipolar disorder and depression. The brothers have some of these things. And so I think that an adolescent can relate to this in so many ways because there's always brother and family relationships. Everyone has that. Everyone is becoming of age. I'm a middle child, and I look to my brother, my older brother, as a role model, and I try to be the best role model I can for both my brothers, even though, like my older brother, I try to be a role model for him, even though he's my older brother, and that's kind of the way Vincent and Theo are. You always worry about disappointing your parents with making decisions in life and mistakes. And a lot of adolescents deal with bipolar disorder and depression, so then reading this book, they can really relate to it. And the 57 Bus, it deals with a lot of racism, sexuality, socioeconomic, homophobia, and justice. Because Sasha, the boy, burnt her skirt and she got on fire on the bus, and she did nothing, or they did nothing to have this come to them upon them, and it's not fair, so justice is served in the end. So, other thoughts with Vincent and Theo, I felt like a lot of information was repeated, like, throughout the chapters. You'd read one chapter, and then the next chapter would have the same information, but presented to you in a different way. Each chapter has I think that the best grade level for this could be 7th through 12th graders, but I think it would relate best for like 7th, 8th, 9th. It's not really like a book for 11th and 12th graders. I think they'd get bored with it. I think it's too much of an easy read for them. I think that students who are interested in social studies and art would like it, and it shows students the struggles of being an artist, so it kind of helps students who see themselves as an artist. And I think that it can be read in English, social studies, or art, because the Vincent and Theo, you get the nonfiction from history. The art is because the artist, and you get to see the struggles of it that an artist face, and English because it's a book. And for some reason my other thoughts on the 57 bus didn't pop up, but I think that if a student in your classroom is struggling with their identity, or they don't know if they see themselves as a girl or a boy, or if they are attracted, can't decide what sex they're attracted to. Actually, I had this bookmarked because it says, in the end, these were the terms Sasha felt described them best: agender, great cupiosexual, pro-romantic, and vegan. And it kind of explains every one of those definitions in the book so students can figure out what they identify themselves as, and I think that would be really helpful for them in the long run. Quotes from articles and textbooks from the readings this past week. So, I said reading nonfiction helps adolescents develop information literacy, a much-needed skill in modern society, in which students can no longer memorize everything in school that they need to know as an adult. And that's on page 280. And selecting appropriate nonfiction is just as important as selecting quality fiction. I think that's very important because teachers really think about what books they want to choose in their classroom fiction-wise. But you can't just throw a nonfiction book at a student that's not going to be appealing to them. You have to really do your research and figure out if it is going to be appealing to your students. Strategies that are involved in nonfiction include predicting, thinking aloud, creating visual representations and graphic organizers, activating prior knowledge, previewing, taking notes, writing to learn, responding to study guides, preparing KWL charts, establishing purposes for reading, developing questions, participating in direct reading thinking activities, and engaging in peer teaching. And some of these that I think that are super important that I was thinking of is like visual representations. I think activating prior knowledge is very important because before reading a nonfiction book, you want to see what your students know about that first, so you don't just jump into a book where they don't know anything about it. And then if they don't know anything about it, I think that teachers, before reading a book, they need to give them some information about the subject beforehand. Taking notes I think is a big thing for nonfiction because students sometimes don't memorize information when reading nonfiction, and the information they're reading is very important because it's real life, and if it's a history class and they need to know the information, that's important. KWL charts, what they know, want to know, and learn from this book. I think those are really good ideas. And participating in direct reading thinking activities. I think that's important too. So, literacy promoting activities. So for Vincent and Theo, the Van Gogh brothers, would be a great history class read, I think. And there are many activities that can come with it. I think that students can make graphic organizers where they're comparing two brothers. Students could read just certain chapters to understand the closeness of the brothers. And maybe if you don't want to take the time to read the whole book with your class, you can assign sections to each group, and then each group can come into class and share their section with them, so you're getting the information, and then maybe after, if the book appeals to a specific student, you can offer them extra credit for reading the entire book. I think the 57 bus I wouldn't want to do for a whole class reading, but I would recommend it for someone who's struggling with identifying themselves, because Sasha struggles for a long time figuring out what they consider themselves. Quotes from the books. In the 57 bus, I really like this one. In the end, these were the terms Sasha felt described them best: agender, great, cupiosexual, romantic, and vegan. And again, in this book, Sasha calls himself a them and a gender, and it goes into complete details on what all those words mean, and there's a billion words you learn about. Vincent and Theo, the quote I really loved was, "There is nothing to cure loneliness like family. Vincent is treasuring every minute with his brother. When he is not working at the gallery, he shows Theo around the city. The two spend days exploring together and talking, getting to know each other away from the rest of the family, becoming more than brothers." I think that's what brought their closeness together. And that is it. So thank you for listening to me, and I hope you have a great next week.